department of Cauca is located in the southwestern part of Colombia, a relief belonging large to the system, crossed by mountain ranges in the Columbia Massif with important hydrographic basins such as the Cauca, Patilla, Magdalena, and Caquetá rivers, made up of 2 municipalities. It is a beautiful region where you can fully enjoy nature, surrounded by diverse culture, but that reality lives here in many of the municipalities that make it up. War in violence. Decades the armed conflict carbon inside putting the civilian population at risk. The same and the people day and night was common to see flashed. The bullets at night caused by the war and the explosion. The main affect artillery and women, the elderly and most vulnerable being chapter in the conflict. The main archer of the armed conflict, the FARC are responsible. After 50 years of armed struggle in Colombia, the peace process was carried out in agreement in the armed struggle with the FARC was seen in the government of President Santos in 2016. Since this agreement, tranquility has come to the population. They have begged to work in gain. People live without fear. Children can go to school in the peace. Work in the fields are increased. The affected municipalities were being structurally rebuilt. Tired of being affected by the war, there was no fear. Many of the needs that existed the territories were being fulfilled. The productive projects bequeathed to the countryside, infrastructure, sustainable development of the environment, health education, economic development, citizen coexistence and reconciliation. Everything was gratifying where for what 5 years the song of war was no longer felt. But this tranquility seemed to be coming to an end. Our was breathing again and this for several factors and reasons. The combatants who are returned to civilian life were being killed. This brought back the incursion into arms, the formation of different armed groups without identification, without ideologies that seek to subjugate the population, and equally poverty, exclusion, and environment. They are located in the lowest rates of poverty. Half of the population that lives with income of 220,930 pesos save serious needs. Purely to comply with agreements with communities and peace agreements. Since 1986, more than 2,000 agreements have been signed with local communities, as well as precarious agreements for the implementation of the 2016 peace agreements, especially with substitution of elite crops. Illegal economics. This one means strategic corridors for drug trafficking. Impunity. The ineffective judges to Hintol now have not provided clarification against those responsible for the violence perpetrated in territory, specifically against leaders and defenders of human rights and the environment. designation and stigmatization of social process and social mobilization. Without guarantees for the leaders of social processes becoming the target of armed actions, naturalization and justification of violence. A part of this society and the political leadership legitimates endorses the violent practices of war, sustaining a class racist and exclusionary culture. Within the faction there are voices that are heard in the territories. Stories and testimonies appear in a reason that worries its inhabitants. In these stories we can find where they indicate that the illegal armed actors make alliances with the public force, political and social sector with particular interests. And what are those interests and historical alliances? Among the statement of the residents, we can find very complex and emerging issues where they indicate that the public force, paramilitary and neo-paramilitary groups tolerated were Águilas Negras, Rastrojos, Gaitanistas, and other unidentified people work for their interests. That is why there is distrust with the state forces, especially with the army, which leads to distancing themselves from them. On the other hand, in the territorial testimony they affirm that the interests with the violence of drug traffic and illegal mining, allowing the free exploitation and free circulation of drug traffic, and finally within the political and social interests with these armed groups. The inhabitants channels that these political leaders and some social leaders have always sought the support of elite organizations, where the population receives economic benefits in exchange for support and votes. This factor that allows the continuity of the war, in either case that the people who live in this territory are immersed in the need for social investment, health and education, substitution of effective illicit crops. Suffer for the countryside because the hard work in the field did not have the condition to have a more dignified life. That is why the illegal armed groups take advantage in this needing condition, offering economic stability in the because they belong to their armed groups or mainly because of the cultivation of Cauca for illicit purposes, and without seeing the consequences. They accept this offer to obtain more income to support their families and have more dignified life. Consequences of growing illicit crops. The power and control of the armed groups. When the armed groups have economic power, the communities don't realize that they handle the weapons and that there is some control in their localities. Before those who are affected are the social leaders, defenders of human rights, communities and leaders of indigenous communities who seek autonomy and defend the territory against these armed actors. Increasing murders. From the above, we can deduce the increasing murders against social leaders, indigenous people, environmental defenders, communities leaders, and those who do not allow cultivation for illicit uses, are attacked against their lives, leaving devastated families. Interest in working in the field. Due to difficult conditions of charging to work successfully in the field, and not having support from the state in the Colombian countryside, People are able to sustain themselves in such a way that it's now sustainable for this sector. The Hamidas dedicate themselves to working in this crop and dairy production because it is more economically profitable for them. So they ignore their work, their violence, and after the needs they suffer. This is the cruel war and the violence and the power that is disputed for control while the state does not provide effective solution. Comply with the agreement signed with the communities and comply with the peace agreement signed where the solution factors are mentioned in the letter. However, have not yet been fulfilled. So people see the government as the main culprit since its action in omission seem to instrumentalize the self-group to weaken the social processes of the indigenous, peasant and rural communities popular. We speak up, they kill us, and if we keep quiet, to end there is one currently happening, say the communities. So the war and violence will continue as long as it does not focus on the needs and investment.